Alright, so I recently finished playing through South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Got some gameplay of me going through the highlight of the game, honestly, being the DLC, which this was the one I liked a little bit more. Because I'm not gonna lie, unlike the DLC that was a solid good time, the game itself was pretty disappointing. I wouldn't necessarily say I expected the world from the game, just a solid, quicker than usual RPG with some of that South Park charm, like I remembered from the first game, just with a new, refreshing combat loop. Granted, it has been a while since I played The Stick of Truth. Like, I finished that one before this one even came out, and this one's been out a little while at this point. New one even just came out. Snow Day, although that's not an RPG. They use like 3D models and stuff with it too, which to me isn't as appealing of a style. Reminds me a lot of that, early 90s, early 2000s licensed shovelware. So I don't know, maybe I'm remembering Stick of Truth better than it actually was. I will say they did switch developers. I remember the first game had a bit of a weird cycle since I believe THQ was supposed to publish, but then they went out of business and Ubisoft picked it up. But overall, Obsidian actually, Fallout New Vegas, Outer Worlds, Obsidian developed that one. This one was developed though in-house by Ubisoft, who wound up picking up the publishing rights, so I guess it isn't too crazy to imagine a shift in quality, even if you're using the same engine, if you have a completely different team now. I will say that the big selling point of this one, as opposed to the Stick of Truth, besides being based off of the Coon episodes, which were pretty good, is, as I mentioned earlier, the new combat, which you're going to see very shortly here, but I actually enjoyed it. That was probably personally more appealing to me than Stick of Truths. I've never played an RPG like this. I think some of the mid 2000s Mega Man ones are like this, where it's kind of like Fire Emblem, but on a much shorter map that you can pretty much reach each other within one turn. I guess it would almost be like Fire Emblem Heroes in a way. But another big difference, though, is there's an element of strategy with the range of your different attacks. Because Fire Emblem's pretty straightforward. 1, 2, maybe 3. Sometimes you can attack in between, but this will have attacks that cover like the 6 spaces in front of you, or going diagonal from where you're at, which is interesting. I will say, I was playing on easy because I suck and don't care, but around the middle of the game, I felt like I was getting fatigued. One thing that I don't felt like played as big of a role as it should have, and it probably did in the first game, and I don't know, I just felt like some of the different options that had less range, if you can hit multiple enemies, to do that one, because you really don't do that much more damage from my experience with the shorter range attacks. But I will say that became a little less obvious as you got further into the game, and it just got more difficult, and you had, different enemies all over the map that were more difficult, to where you didn't feel like basically you were just spamming the same few attacks that had high range. Although, like I said, maybe this wasn't as much of a problem on higher difficulties. That's just one end of the gameplay, though. You will obviously have puzzles and exploration, and the puzzles are fine, but what was really bad was the exploration. Like, there was points where I felt like I was wasting my time and considered just stopping the game altogether. Going through town the first time is fun. There's lots of collectibles to find. The issue is, and maybe it's partially my fault, because as I passed different areas, I made a point to go and look through every nook and cranny, see what I can find. And I had most of the map covered, 5 hours in at the end of chapter 1 out of a 7 chapter, 20-hour game. And it just got really repetitive and boring. There's not a lot of quick travel points. And how there's a point later in the game where they temporarily don't allow you to fast travel. And you'll just reach an objective and be like, oh boy, can't wait to hold down the left thumbstick towards the left for a few minutes to reach this area with no quick travel point. It's very fun gameplay. And the map is just too big for its own good. Like I said, either set up a shit ton of quick travel points, which in a way sounds more like band-aiding a bigger issue. Yet you reach the DLC, and I feel like they did a good job. Like, you kind of have one central area, so even when you travel to another area, the new area will be fresh. They update the central area a little after you complete an objective, and that fixed a lot of the issues I had. And like I said, the DLC was pretty fun. I almost wonder if they ever do another game like this. It would be interesting to maybe have them set it up almost like an episodic thing, especially being based on a show too. And they construct better detailed, more miniature exploration areas. And if you really wanted to, you can maybe at the end of the game open everything up. Or hell, even if you had to have everything open up from the beginning, at least focus the part of the game on a specific area. I will say I was playing on Switch too, which may or may not have worse performance compared to certain other platforms. I forget everything this game came out on. But like I said, when you're just holding in a button, going through a section of a map, spending a few seconds loading, and then going to another section of the map, and you have to maybe do that one more time, it's just annoying. Another issue I had with the game, and something that I don't think would have saved the game itself, but it could have definitely helped motivate me a bit more to push through those issues, is almost the lack of the South Park charm in a way. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched in a while. Oh, yeah, I forgot they had Satan in this super attack. Henrietta was a cool choice for a extra DLC character. Mintberry Crunch makes sense, especially with the name of the DLC pack, but I was actually kind of expecting Timmy going in. But anyway. Oh, sorry, I guess that's a mild spoiler that Timmy isn't playable in the game, but that's a kind of minor thing. Still plenty of other people to uncover who are playable, but I remember the last season I watched I didn't really like. I think the last couple they did sort of an overarching plot throughout the entirety, and this one was about some European country that was about to release everyone's internet history. And Kyle's dad, Gerald, played a big role in it. And I just didn't like it. Didn't feel particularly motivated to go back to older episodes, especially when I'm sorry, other way. I didn't feel particularly motivated to watch newer episodes, especially when there's even so many older ones I haven't seen. The only episode in general, though, I feel like I've seen since that was the COVID special, which was pretty good, I will say. But basically what I'm trying to say is, I don't know if the show kind of took this direction, or maybe I'm looking back with more rose-tinted glasses, but I remember South Park being a lot more clever and a lot less reliant on gross-out humor. Granted, I remember it existed, but here it's yikes. And it could be done well. I feel like Conker's Bad Fur Day is an example of a game that does that really well. I know some people might say, Pooh Mountain may have went a little overboard, but I personally didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome or anything. So it's not like I have a low tolerance or appreciation or whatever for that thing. But yikes, this almost felt like Pooh Mountain quantity of that type of thing, except less clever and for the whole game. There are a lot of references, which is fine. You expect that type of thing. Some nostalgia to put a smile on your face. A few even towards the movie, too, which I don't remember seeing a lot of references to in the past, although I might be completely wrong in misremembering that. But yeah, that was fine, what you would expect. But something else I found that did overstay its welcome was some of the repetition with some of the jokes. Because there's multiple jokes here. And I'm not saying you can't repeat any, but you need to be more clever with it, honestly. Or else, it kind of leads to you shaking your head and comes off almost desperate in a way. For example, one of the first ones that repeats is, you're having your battles in the middle of the street, and a car goes by, everyone's like, oh, hold up, car, goes to the sidewalk, gets yelled out by the passerby. Something a lot of people could kind of relate to, and a reminder that it's, a video game and imagination and that sort of shit. So yeah, that's appreciated the first time. They proceed to do that 2 or 3 more times. And like I said, there's multiple other cases. And like I said, they could have done it a little more clever. Like maybe they do it that one time, completely stop doing it, but do it with the final boss or something when you're really not expecting or may not remember it. And it's kind of a cool throwback to, the first time they pulled that. Or maybe when you're in a weird area. So this time it wouldn't be, just cars passing by. It would be something else. I don't know what exactly, but there's ways to get around it, basically, is the point I'm trying to make. And it just didn't happen that way here. But once again, with the DLC, the gross out humor was toned down. And there really wasn't a lot of repeat jokes, at least that I can recall. And it's just kind of crazy, too, how they fix, the gameplay and tone issues I had with the game. Maybe this was a general thing and that's why it happened, but maybe not. Maybe it was planned out before reception was even out there. I'm sure, like a lot of other games, they may have already been pushing a season pass before the game was out. I mean, it is Ubisoft. Just speculation, baseless, could be wrong. I'm not super well informed about everything with this game. One thing that I will say was kind of funny is something I would have complained about is that there was no way to tell who you already got to follow you on social media. But then when I was playing the game, I found out that scanning allows you to do that. So I guess I didn't use that enough in the main campaign. Not the first time I've played through a game and completely missed a handy function. I'm thinking of Yakuza 0, where I didn't realize you can run until I was already on the post-game content. At least that time, Yakuza 0 was one of my favorite games ever. So at least the mild inconvenience I brought on myself was for a much better game that was, worth playing as long as possible, I guess. Another, minor personal gripe, I guess, too. Honestly, I do remember a couple Mitch Connor episodes. I guess another spoiler alert, but Mitch Connor kind of plays a big role in the game. And I don't know, I always thought the Mitch Connor thing was really stupid. I will say this might be more of a personal thing. Like I said, I never got into that joke. But I don't know, for me, it was just a cherry on top of the unexpected shit Sunday this game was. And yikes, I look at the DLC and wonder what could have been, though. Because the potential's there, obviously. And like I said, if I remember correctly, they may have even reached it with Stick of Truth. With this game showing that they could have done things to freshen everything up, but At least for me, it really just didn't hit well. Also, unless I was missing something like I was with the social media follower system, unskippable special skill cutscenes in both combat and exploration was not a good call.